Good evening, Music Multiverse listeners. This is Beyond Your Radio, and welcome to another episode of That's Your Band Name. And this is episode 9. Why do we do this? Well, not only is it interesting to find these band names and whether they're in our wheelhouse or not, it's interesting to go back in time, remember their story, or what compelled the name of their band. Think about it. It's really as important as naming your child. It's the first thing muttered. It's going to stick. Come on, we're doing this show. Some of these bands we're talking about, we've just mentioned, are 30 and 40 years old or more. So it sticks. Think about the band names we've already come up with so far. Pop will Eat Itself, John Cougar Concentration Camp, or Let's Get Out of This Terrible Sandwich Shop. Yes, if you're just started watching us at this episode, go back. I swear there's some humdingers in there. And there's more to come. But that aside, this is fun. Hell, maybe when some of these bands might have had a unique name or sound that went beyond their name. You missed them because the name wasn't that good, or they weren't named properly, or just couldn't find them. Whatever the band name, we're going to be here showcasing them to maybe give you something you have to giggle about, or maybe just maybe to consider listening to, which some tonight I pretty much think they should be listened to. Now, before we get into tonight's band names from our panelists, if you're new to the channel, you've come to the right place. To those of you that have been here before, you're back. Thank God. Click the subscribe button out of maybe pure pity because you dig what we're doing. If you could like and maybe do some commenting, you know you want to. We're still struggling here at the channel with the idea of playing snippets of the sounds of these albums. But for now, we're sticking to what makes YouTube happy and avoid trying to ascertain who could possibly be offended in royalty by us playing something. Someday, I promise. So good evening to my panelists. How's everyone?
I'm good. I'm here because I lost a bet. Just kidding.
Yeah, he lost a bet.
Mm-hmm.
So tonight, each of our panelists will have 3 selections. And I'm looking forward to each of those. Due to the fact that I've been kind of using imagery a little bit better and popping it up on screens and typing band names, we're just this is your background for today. So I will start us off with, let's go to Sue. Since she was ladies first, right? There you go.
Ladies first. All right. So I'm gonna start out with this is the oldest band that I'm gonna present tonight. 1960s, about 66, called the Peanut Butter Conspiracy. Before that, they had been known as the Young Swingers, then the Ashes, reinvented as the Crossing Guards, and for whatever reason, not exactly quite sure, Peanut Butter Conspiracy, which I like because I love peanut butter, which is why I was drawn to it. They were a psychedelic pop rock band. Huh?
He said not sorry. You know, for the commercial.
Oh.
Come on, keep up with us, people. Keep up.
Oh, okay. All right. So before I was so rudely interrupted, they were a psychedelic pop rock band that came out of Los Angeles and initially signed with Columbia Records. First album title, I like it. The Peanut Butter Conspiracy is spreading.
God.
They had some hits, or maybe not. There wasn't a lot of hype about these things like It's a Happening Thing and Turn on a Friend. Their second album, though, they wound up coming out and doing a national tour. They got a little bit of popularity. They wrote some songs for various movies, including, what was that one, The Valley of the Dolls? Yeah. I feel like somehow every person in the world is connected to that movie, but they are on there.
Really?
One of their songs.
Oh, cool.
After that, They lost a couple, gained a couple people, an organist, a drummer, and they wound up with Warner Brothers, sorry, and did a final album called For Children of All Ages. And they toured for the last time in 1970. Some of their members included, and I'm not familiar with all of these, but maybe you guys are, John Merrill, Alan Brackett, Barbara Sandy Robinson, and she, at one point in time, I think they took a hiatus while she had a baby. Spencer Dryden of Jefferson Airplane was on board for a little bit, I think. Lance Baker Fent, Jim Voight, Bill Wolf, Ralph Schuckett, Michael Ney, and then they had some studio musicians, including Glenn Campbell, and James
Really?
Burton. Really? So it was around that time that they were getting called to do movies and things too. So, at that point, it sounds like there were some movers and shakers, and but it just sounds like they kind of, I don't know, they were at the right place at the right time, knew the right people, and made some songs that people enjoyed and kind of went for a ride, is the way I take it.
Huh.
And Jeff has something really funny to say because I can see it all over his face.
Well, it's my dad jokes coming out of me. I was just going to say, so once they finally decided on Peanut Butter Conspiracy, the name stuck.
It's brittle. It's brittle.
Oh, that was crunchy, Jeff.
As
Okay.
I shamelessly plug Mighty Taco.
But that's it. That's all I've got on them. And I
Oh.
don't really have an opinion.
It's a fun name.
I will be listening. I was looking, in the 1960s, I always talk about psychedelic rock and who came first. And, there's all kinds of names in there that people might not know, or some people recognize, like Budgie and other bands like that. So it'll be interesting. I'm going to go back. That one I did not know.
Yeah.
Cool. Jeff Young, bring us your number 3.
I think I can tell you the entire history of this band in this small segment because there's not much to it. So I picked Braintoy. And mostly for the fact that in the early 2000s, I heard this on the radio and I was thinking to myself, this is a really good song. I don't know if anyone's ever heard this. I might be one of the few people that have heard this. I got to tell my friends. And of course, it's always nice when you can spread something like that. And then, of course,
Like peanut butter.
Billy flamed out. So the band Braintoy was supposed to be a progressive rock band from Toronto. So in 2005, they had a 5-song EP called Tremors. The original lead singer was Brett Fitzgerald, but that was the only album he was on. The first song off of that EP, track 1, was called Destitutoria, and it was actually in a 2000 film called Skinwalkers, which has a whopping, I think, 14 on the Rotten Tomatoes. I think it might have actually been a TV movie. I don't even know. It might have even been a Canadian TV movie. I don't even know. In 2006, Braintoy started recording their first LP, and it was in a small studio that belonged to Hawksley Workman. But 3 hours into recording, they got rid of their lead vocalist. And so then they found another one. And in 2007, they continued recording the process. The resulting album was their first LP, which was called Vehicles in 2008. And really, that's about where it ends. I mean, honestly, they did have a video with the original singer for the song Never Goes Away, which is the first one I heard. I thought it was really good. You can still find it if you're good on the internet. It's good. I mean, it sounds like 90s, early 2000s, but I just thought they had a lot of promise, but they just couldn't get their shit together, I guess, and just it ended. So I don't even know how they came up with that name. I just thought it was a decent name, and I thought for sure they had some talent, and that's where it ended.
Yeah, I have that record. And the single, because that song isn't on Vehicles, the one. So At least the version that I had. I don't know if it's the US version or not. Mine goes along the similar lines as yours, Jeff. Mine first one tonight is Pete, period. That's P-E-T-E, period. Post-grunge alternative, big signing with Warner Brothers after one of their demos got played on the air. I don't think it was accidentally. And that was, I don't remember the name of the song. So Warner Brothers jumps all over this. They get enough money to make this record and really do it well. So they do their Stone Temple Pilots meets Stained version. They even got a little marketing swag behind them, courtesy of one of our panelists. What? That's right. Jeff Kreider, who is yet to join us on this show, because he couldn't come to this one, he sent me an email, and I'm going to quote him. Funny you picked Pete, period. We worked that song, Sweet Days, from their one and only Warner Brothers album. Had mild success at rock radio with the song. When I delivered the record to radio, I sent a candy bar along with each to eat as part of the promotion of Sweet Days. That's D-A-Z-E. Not any ordinary candy bar either. I went to Fowler's and asked them if they could make a Pete candy bar. Sure enough, Fowler's took the Pete name on the album cover and made a molding of it. The wrapper had the Pete name along with the song title and the Warner Brothers record logo on all of the wrappers. They made 60 candy bars for me and sold a few in their stores. Pete, period, only one album. And if you listen to it, you'll understand the era it's coming from. It's really well produced, but just didn't catch beyond Sweet Days, which I believe ended up 14 maybe on the top. That song 14 out of whatever 100, top 100. And we'll go back to Sue.
And what year did you say that came out?
Pete. Oh, I'm not going to remember, am I?
You said 90s?
Oh, no, 2000.
Oh,
Well, no, late 90s. Hang on, I have it. 2001.
okay. So on the cusp. I was gonna say, because just like your guys' last bands, the second one I'm going to talk about are the Longpigs.
The what?
Longpigs, Longpigs. I think it's all one word. Out of Sheffield, UK. They came out in the 90s and were kind of yet another one of these bands that I actually like them. I listened to several of their songs. They have a really good sound. But I think it was so competitive. There was so much going on in the 90s. And a lot of label jumping and a lot of labels coming up and folding. But the Longpigs, it was a 4-song. Crispin Hunt was the lead singer. Richard Hawley was lead guitar, he went on to do a lot more things. Simon Stafford was bass and Dee Boyle was drums. From what I understand, Long Pig is a translation of a Pacific Islander term for cannibal meat.
So they open for cattle decapitation? No.
No, and I don't know. I mean, I didn't read like much further into why they chose that name, but aside from that, they're actually really enjoyable. They had a top 40 hit called She Said. From what I understand, they released it and then the lead singer got in a car accident, wound up in a coma. He came out of a coma, he was recovering, they were gonna get back on track and re-release and move forward, and then they were with Electrica out of UK and Electrica folded. So then they were passed around a bit and contractual stuff, and so Mother, the label Mother, I'm not quite sure. It was associated somehow with U2, but Mother picked them up. I think around 94, 95, and they re-released She Said, became a top 20, and they also had another high ranking song, I think it was Lost Myself around 96. So now if you go back, let's see, they started early 90s around what, 90, from 90 to 98, they were pretty much on tour. So they were burnt. All of them were kind of like frazzled personally, professionally, struggled in studio. Something happened with the drummer, and I don't know if he was like booted out of the band or if there was just some kind of friction, but he wound up smashing the lead singer in the face with a beer glass. They still managed to have another release, Mobile Home in 99, but the label that picked them up at that point just fell short and didn't do much to promote them. It kind of got depressing to read all this because, again, if you listen to their sound, they're a good band. Long story short of it is that they wound up getting some bad reviews in between all the breaks, and that was kind of it. They just kind of they're described as like trend. Well, I think they were kind of trendy, indie rocky, a lot of good guitar, what you'd expect from the 90s. He had a really good voice and they had a good sound. So kind of surprised, Mark, I guess we don't have this in your collection, but I think
Britpop for me is a tough one.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say, I don't even know who to compare him to. I mean, I saw when I was kind of looking through some different things like Oasis and this and that, but they have their own sound, and so yeah, I kind of feel bad. I feel bad for him.
It's unusual. Okay, so if speaking to our audience, right? Their album, The Sun Is Often Out. This is all from one album. Okay, which is completely unusual for a band that has been one album for what, 5 years, because of all this stuff that's happening to them, basically. Right. So they had 5 singles off of one album. That's a lot. And both Q and Melody Maker retain this as one of the best 50 albums of 1996. So if you go against what is going on in 1996, which is a whole lot of ridiculous records out at that time, right? That's pretty high praise. I'm pretty sure I've heard She Said, but I'm going to go back and listen to this record for sure. 12 songs, 53 minutes. Cool. Stu, man, you're on fire tonight. Well, I don't even know why Jeff's here.
The peanut butter conspiracy. I don't know about that.
Oh, that's right. He lost a bet.
Yeah.
He's not laughing. Jeff, you come on, give me something good.
So this one I picked is the band The Dreaming. It's an alternative rock band out of Hollywood. Started in 2002 by Christopher Hall after the end of Stabbing Westward. That was his band. So he started The Dreaming with Johnny Harrow, who played in the last record for Stabbing Westward. I was a big fan of Stabbing Westward, still am. And The Dreaming, really good, very, very similar, not quite as industrial, but their name is weird. It's typical of many rock bands where it comes from a comic book, comes from the domain of Dream of the Endless from the Sandman series, which I am completely unfamiliar with. But the members of The Dreaming, some of them had been in other bands. Obviously, Christopher Hall was the lead vocalist in Stabbing Westward. And then Carlton Boast was a member. He was of Dead Z, Berlin, and Orgy. And then Johnny
Okay.
Harrow, of course, Stepping Westward, but he was also in Freak of Nature, Brian Jonestown Massacre, Mosque, Star 69, and A Line Crush.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so not a big history with this band either, but they released like 4 EPs, 2 demos, and a full album. They've got a couple albums actually. The debut album, this is weird. So the debut album, Etched in Blood, was released in 2008 through a deal with the retail mall chain Hot Topic, and also able to be purchased through Apple iTunes. So, it's marketing, but it's not like A+ marketing. So, it's like a lot of, I feel like they did a lot of things by themselves probably. But anyway, I've seen them live, and they're really good live. They used to only play like 1 or 2 Stepping Westward songs, and after I think once Puppet came out, they just stopped playing Stepping Westward songs because they had enough really in their library now. But
Yeah.
I mean, real good band. I don't think they're really around anymore. I mean, they'll release occasionally something online here and there, but yeah. So anyway, it's worth listening to.
Yeah, I don't know. I have Puppet, and I think I have Rise Again. I don't know if I have From the Ashes. They have I love their logo.
Yeah, Etched in Blood, right?
Yes. So I don't play them. Although if you ask me if I play On God by Stabbing Westward, yep.
The Dreaming is funny because it's one of those bands, almost any of their albums, you start playing it, it's like, oh yeah, I should listen to this more often. It's like you enjoy it, but it's not like the go-to of the Hall catalog, you know what I mean? Because there's like 4 or 5 Stabbing Westward albums already that, if you like his voice, you're gonna gravitate more towards that maybe.
Yeah, I guess it's just the Industrials more is a harder hit than memory wise. And of course, having not seen them live, that's another minus, right? When you see somebody live, you have a tendency to gravitate to those albums more. What you've seen.
Saw them at Howdy's.
Oh yeah.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
Howdy's.
2000. That was what the first one then, not Puppet, right? Etched in Blood was first, right?
I don't know which album it was. I don't remember what year it was.
Got to be for it. I think Puppet was second. So yeah, because 2011. Not quite sure, but I guess it's to me, right? Well, so I'm gonna go New Age, sort of an electronica group, but in the more New Age, formed in Chicago in the early 70s. Did I know that they were from the early 70s? Nope. So I'm in the used store and I see this. Shadow Facts. What do I care? It was only $1. Kind of a cool name, or I don't remember what year it was I got it, but the Fax, F-A-X, was still the big hit in the communication world. So as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, God, why would somebody date their name, with such a archaic, well, I didn't know they started in 1970, but what I really didn't know was the group took its name from, and well, I'm sure there are people out there right now clamoring, going, I know the answer. It's Gandalf's horse from The Lord of the Rings.
Wait,
Did not know?
Shadow
Facts. One word, Shadow Facts. That's Gandalf's horse, Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
So this group, best known for their album Shadow Facts and Folk Songs for a Nuclear Village. In 1989, they won the Grammy for Best New Age Performance for that same album, Folk Songs from a Nuclear Village. They've been, 1976 album, 82, 83, 84, 86. So the one I showed you, Shadowfax, was 1982. The musicianship is fantastic. They know how to blend all the melodies. It's very engaging. It's not the new age that you're thinking of. It's not Yanni. It's almost borderline skipping out of new age into, like I said, it's electronica. I would even say that in some cases it might even be a slightly jazz influence. But they ended their journey in '94's last album called Magic Theater, which I started listening to this week, but I had some other ones on the list. I'm going to go back to it. I highly recommend them. If you are, they have instrumental. They still have some vocal things going on, not much, but you're minuscule at best. But the instrumentation is really engaging and not dated. It's like, it has that, but nothing like you get from Herbie Hancock with those out of key, synthesizer issues. So Shadowfax, back to you, Sue.
Back to me. Okay, so I was trying to find a weird name band that would be really bad, but I just didn't accomplish that tonight. So my third one, I picked it because it's a very long name. It's 14 words, it's 48 letters. It is "The World is a Better Place and I'm No Longer Afraid to Die," aka TWIABP. Okay, so here's the thing. It's a bit of a mystery and I'm intrigued. I didn't have a lot of time because I was switching out a band.
Because you picked one that had already been done. I don't even know how that's possible, but not only did you pick one, you picked two that had already been done.
So they are known as an indie rock emo band. They came out of Wilmantic, Connecticut in 2009. And I only listened to 3 songs. I liked them all. There's some really nice guitar work. The vocals kind of, and again, I've only listened to 3, but I noticed there's like a pattern of they start out kind of soft, quiet, smooth, and then they build and build and build and build. I noticed he's got some Dave Grohl type of like screaming going on in some of them, not in the beginning, but more towards the middle. So that's kind of interesting too. Some of the songs are "I Can Be Afraid of Anything," "Infinite Josh," "Getting Sodas," "You Can't Live There Forever," and they're honestly really good songs. I want to double check that 2009 because I mean they could be released tomorrow, I think, and they do really well.
But they're not around today, or no?
That I didn't get that far. I think they have a Facebook page, so they might be. But I would say give them a listen. Because from what I heard, I liked it. And some of the lyrics were a little bit screamy, so I don't exactly know. He could have been saying anything, I suppose, but they have a really good sound, I think. So I was pleasantly surprised.
All right, so I'll give you some additionals. So as the COVID-19 pandemic spilled into 2021, and the world is a beautiful place, and I'm no longer afraid to die, wrapped their 4th album, Illusory Walls. The Connecticut-formed indie post-rock quintet kind of had this statement: "I actually assumed we would play this stuff live." Guitarist Chris tells, "Being a live band is really important to us, but we still felt like we had to make this record as a personal fulfillment. So they waited, watching the calendar as tours got scheduled, postponed, rescheduled. Eventually the band, they named everybody in the band, knew they had to take matters in their own hands, heading out in 2021 in October. So I believe they are still a band, and they have quite a catalog from dating back to 2011 with their first one and to 2023. So lots to pick from. Great.
Yeah.
I do not know this at all.
I think you'd enjoy it. I think, like I said, they have a lot going on, and yeah.
They actually put out a live album last year called "Thank You for Being Here." where they, I don't know where it was done at, but cool. Jeff.
My last one is Days of the New. Interesting thing about this particular band name is their first 3 albums are all self-titled Days of the New. And the other weird thing about this band is they've gone through 29 band members.
Holy cow.
So they began as like an experimental rock groove metal trio, and they were called the Dead Reckoning. But they were formed by Travis Meeks. It's when he was 17 years old as an acoustic solo project during his teenage years. A demo version of the song Freak, which is one of their more popular songs, appeared on something called the Harvest Showcase Volume 3, which is a compilation of area artists in the Louisville area. And one of their other bigger songs, Touch, Peel, and Stand, Billboard magazine named it one of the greatest all-time mainstream rock songs. So the group actually had a couple of the more notable members on the second, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think. It's
There's a
second
green
album,
album, a
Nine
red
Times.
album. Yeah, bro.
That had Nicole Scherzinger, who became the singer of the Pussycat Dolls.
Mhm.
And other band members would include Mike Starr, who played bass for Alice in Chains, and also another bassist, Charlie Cohen from Train. And their third and final self-titled album, which is the Red Album, because they were just different colors, that was released in 2001. They also contributed a song to Godzilla, the album. The song was Running Knees. They toured in 98 with Metallica and Jerry Cantrell, but Travis Meeks, who had lots of problems, criticized the billing later. His argument was that their acoustic sound, they should have been touring with groups like Dave Matthews Band instead. So before they started another summer tour, Meeks had said that all his fellow band members were holding him back, and consequently he released them from the group. And that was the beginning of the rotation of 29 or 28 other band members. So 3 of the guys from the band, the other 3 would go to form a band called C14, which they renamed as Tantric, while Travis Meeks would form another version of Days of the New. So the self-titled Tantric album actually went platinum. And Tantric went on to tour with Three Doors Down, Lifehouse, Kid Rock, Creed. And in 2001, the same year that Tantric was doing well, Days of the New also toured with Creed and Three Doors Down. What else did I see? Let's see here. Oh, actually, in 2002, Days of the New was kind of ending, and Meeks actually was one of the high-profile auditions for Velvet Revolver with former members of Guns N' Roses. And then he went on a solo tour after that, but was still addicted to methamphetamine. And in 2005, he was on A&E's show Intervention, where family and friends convinced him to enter rehab. And that's pretty much the end of the career, as far as I know.
Wow, it's a lot.
Well,
but, I mean, all the albums, regardless of how difficult of a person Meeks may have been to be with, like, I mean, all the albums are really good. He's got a lot of talent, but he's, probably tough to work with.
Yeah.
Sue, you saw him live.
Yeah. When was that? When would that have been?
It was Metallica and Jerry Cantrell.
Yeah. There was a lot going on at that show.
Yeah.
But
People burning and punching each other in the face.
Yeah. And not burning each other. They were making fire pits and jumping over them. But yeah, so it was a good show. I do remember bits and pieces.
I want to say Shelf in the Room, right? That was, for me, that's where it started. When hearing that, there's no question that Travis Meeks was like a phenomenal acoustic guitar player to a degree that in what we'll call progressive rock, right? It very progressive, almost to a point where you would think it's industrial, but it's not. The albums are quite heavy for being acoustic. They're not all acoustic, but pretty much predominantly. Just well orchestrated. I mean, he obviously a mastermind, driving himself insane and all the addictions, and it doesn't work. Maybe back in the day it did. It doesn't work in the 2000. Was that 2008, 7? What are those albums?
Early 2000s.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when it was when Tantric happened, right? And I was like, I thought it was his band. You know what I mean? For a minute there, I just thought maybe he'd step back. But yeah, I have all their records. I have every Days of the New record, and I do have a lot of Travis Meeks's. I don't know if they'll call them solo things, but offshoots. But yeah, great pick. Great pick.
Mhm.
All right. My final one is a German band called Hacked de Pecciotto. They are kind of a stunning soundscape kind of listen with a lot of hooks. Danielle's spoken word and 3D lyrical storytelling with violin, minor scales, and runs, and ancient drone built on hurdy-gurdy auto sharp, creating sparse and enticing soundscapes for Alexander to unleash his guttural and powerful neo black metal throat singing and bass playing undertones. If you can catch what's going on here, it's basically a form of electronic and cleverly put into musicianship and mood and musical mood and soundscapes. Again, I'm being redundant. I got into them on the album Keepsakes, which is brand new. I only listened to that record, but they've been around a little bit. I really think people might want to check them out. How did I come up with Hacked de Pecciotto?
Yeah, are you saying that right?
I don't know.
I'm
I didn't
messing
look at
with
their. You don't think I am?
No, that sounds very Buffalo,
Yeah.
Buffalonian, hacked.
Kind of
That's
Google
more
it for that.
This is German.
HACKEDEPCCIOTTO.
I think it's pronounced Farpignugan.
Okay, we'll accept that.
We'll go with that, right? So they've got albums: The Silver Threshold, Manikettle, Perseverantia, The Current, and Joy, which is a meditation soundtrack. They kind of go up and down the scale of that progressive electronica and musical ambient. And it's a unique listen. Lots to check out there. But I thought the Keepsakes was a pretty good record, and I don't think it'll make my top 23 of 23, but definitely a band I didn't know anything about. A lot like some of the other bands today, like Peanut Butter Conspiracy and The World is a Beautiful Place, ... And then Jeff hitting us up with those Days of the New. And I really enjoyed today's show. I hope our people watching get the idea of what to look for in these programs. We're on the web at www.beyondyourradio.com with articles from things like album review Saturdays and Unknown Sundays, where we talk about artists that people might not know, which is another kind of segue into these. That's your band names. I want to thank my panelists for joining me tonight. We'll be back on Thursday this week with What's in Your Ear. Happy listening, everyone.